At times stricken by withering drought, or deluged by flood, or devastated by storms, at times blighted by scourge of mice and worms. Such are farmers' recurrent woes, woes as old as the centuries, woes that have made poverty our lifelong companion. Then, Mother of the land, you came, like water to bathe our wounds, to cool the searing heat and soothe our burning hearts. You praise us to all, telling all tales of the hardship and the greatness of farmers who sweated and strained to feed the world. In heat, in wind, in rain, you set out to assuage our woes, bestowing the gift of learning to those whose hopes were blighted. She took their calloused hands and schooled them in beauty's art, to tune designs with flowing lines, more sweet than a sickle's curves. How many months and years it took to turn iron chunks into slender points, to make fibrous threads twist and hold in gleaming brocades and shimmering silks. All those have eyes to see such beauty know what love's labor has yielded, how many lives have been saved from the strangling hold of poverty. From above shines the new dawn, to breathe fresh life in dying crafts. See how they blossom into living beauty that bear witness to her art of molding brown earth into multi-hued diamonds. April 28, 1950 was an auspicious day that will forever be remembered by the Thai nation. For it was on that day His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej married Hmom Rachawong Sirikit Gittiyakon. The royal wedding ceremony at Sapatum Palace was presided over by Her Majesty Queen Sawang Wattana, King Bhumibhol's paternal grandmother. A week later, at his coronation on May 5th, His Majesty the King invested Hmom Rachawong Sirikit with her full royal title, Her Majesty Queen Sirikit of the Chakri dynasty. In accordance with royal custom, His Majesty the King was ordained into the monkhood in 1956 for a period which lasted from October 23rd to November 5th. Showing supreme confidence in Her Majesty the Queen, he appointed her regent to rule in his absence. Her Majesty justified that confidence, carrying out her royal responsibilities to the letter and with much aplomb. Consequently, on His Majesty the King's birthday anniversary later that year, he bestowed upon her the title, the Queen Regent, and henceforth her official title has been Her Majesty Queen Sirikit, the Queen Regent. Her Majesty the Queen has always accompanied His Majesty on visits to rural communities throughout Thailand. Tirelessly and with admirable determination, they have traveled to every part of the country, come rain or shine, to try and help alleviate hardships endured by the poor. Apart from performing her royal duties and greeting all those who travel from miles around to see her, Her Majesty always spends time discussing local problems with local officials, making suggestions on how to improve the lives of villagers.
Sometimes in the beginning, she used to give money and things to the rural poor. However, His Majesty said that this was not a good idea, as it was not a sustainable solution. He said if she was really to help, she needed to find the root causes of the problems and go on from there. His Majesty always had someone take notes on the villagers' grievances, so the Queen often studied these notes, looking for ways to help solve the problems. When they visited rural people in the old days, going back to 1973, we never knew ahead of time where they were going. For instance, once in Narathiwat province, they would just turn left or right meeting people, asking questions. They might even walk up to someone's homes to see how they lived. They wanted to see everything, the conditions in each village, how people earn their living, if they had problems with the quality of the soil, if they had health problems. His Majesty would talk to the village headman and the man of the household, while Her Majesty would talk to the women and children. On each visit, a group of doctors from various hospitals would also accompany them. They were all volunteers, specialists in different fields.
I first had the opportunity to be of royal service in 1974. At that time, Their Majesties were in their annual residency at Thaksin Palace. A volunteer doctors unit was established there, and later on was extended to Sakonnakhon province at Phupan Palace. Then Chiang Mai province at Phuping Palace. I was in service in Narathiwat province from its inception. At that time, one whole district, Rysop, did not have even a single doctor. If you asked how interested Her Majesty was in medical care, I would have to say very much so. Wherever they visited the people, she always came to visit the mobile medical unit to see doctors, technicians, and other volunteers at work. The dispensary. She wanted to see everything, including the patient's forms. Officers from her secretariat would always drop by, as far as I can remember, on each trip.
I saw what I never thought I would see. It was my first time at Phuping Palace. Many of the locations that the mobile medical unit traveled to were unreachable by car. Oh, we went by car for the first leg of the journey, but then we had to transfer to helicopters for the rest of the way. It was like that every day. It seemed as if we landed on the summit of a mountain and were surrounded by mountaintops where hill tribe people lived. Cars could not possibly have traveled up there. I never realized that behind the scenes it was so rough. I think Her Majesty made a huge sacrifice. The pictures we saw on TV were of places they visited, but we never knew how they got there. After the hardship of traveling, they then worked for hours on end in order to help people in every conceivable manner, be it healthcare, livelihood, or just trying to improve the quality of life in general. Normally, as a doctor, one does not just take care of the physical ailments, but mental health too. I used to think, how can I possibly help these people? Fortunately, there were the Queen's projects to help those without work.